Okay, hello, good evening. We're sorry for the previous each. Good evening and welcome to Veritas Edu-Consult. This is a place where we talk holistic education, where we bring in consultants, bring in professionals who teach us, who coach us, who lecture us, who explain to us some things that we naturally ignore most times, and some of the things that we do not even know before now. Okay, this is the third edition we are having here on Instagram at Veritas Edu-Consult. The first time we talked about what is holistic education, what makes a teacher holistic. The second time we brought in a dentist who talked about dental health, explaining to us a lot of things about dental health. If you've not seen that video, you can go back to our page and watch after this session. Not now, after this session. Okay, today we are going to be looking at a very crucial topic. It's a crucial topic. And once you know the topic, I'm sure you're going to agree with me that it's a crucial topic. Okay, so today we are looking at emotional intelligence, the importance of emotional intelligence in the education sector. You know, before we bring in education sector, we should talk about what emotional intelligence is. We should know what it is before we can talk about its importance. So today, we have a guest in our midst that is going to teach us, explain to us, coach us on what emotional intelligence means, its importance in children and in adults. So if you're an individual, a parent, a teacher that want to understand emotions and how to be intelligent with it, then is for you. Okay, my guest is here. My guest is here.
All right.
You are welcome.
Thank you. I'm actually struggling to see myself.
I can see you here too.
I think something went wrong.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I think it's back.
Yes, I can see you now.
All right.
Now I can see you. You're welcome, Coach. Thank you
Good
for
evening.
joining
How are
us
you now?
today. I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm great. And good evening, everybody. Super excited to be here tonight.
We are excited to have you as well. Super
Thank you,
excited.
man. Thank you.
Okay, you are super excited to be here. We are super duper excited to have you here.
Okay. I give up on that.
Okay, sir. All right. People in the house, I'm sure you can see our coach presently. So I'm going to read out his profile before we dive into the topic of today, because we need to dive in. We need
Yeah.
to really dive in. Okay. Femi Luther-Abegunde, popularly known as FLA, is a management consultant, an author, a peak performance coach, and a life coach who works with individuals and organizations to transition from where they are to where they yearn to be. He has his first degree in computer science, his executive master's in project management, and professional master's in international law and diplomacy. As a certified peak performance and life coach with years of experience in the field of emotional intelligence, leadership development, mind engineering, strategy execution, and human capital development, he helps individuals find answers to their most pressing questions. He helps them gain self-awareness, find their passion, fill their inner vacuums, and create their desired haven for lucidity, tenacity, and courage required to achieve success. With the engineering minds and thoughts towards effectiveness that sprouted him, Femi has authored several books to successfully channel the wealth of knowledge he has accrued over the years. He's a pastor, he's a management consultant, he's an author, a peak performance coach, he's an embodiment of knowledge. Welcome with me, FLA Femi Luther-Abegunde.
Thank
You're
you
welcome,
so
sir.
much, man. Thank you so much.
Okay, from your profile, I can see you are a pastor, right?
Sorry, I lost you there. Can you say that again? Sorry.
I said from your profile, I can see that
Okay, I can hear you now.
you're a performance coach and a life
Yeah.
coach, a management consultant, a pastor. Even if you didn't write that there, I decided to add that.
Actually, that's actually why I'm shocked. I was saying, where did you get that pastor from?
No, I added it myself.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm all
Okay.
set under God. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, people, today we're talking about the importance of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. I have heard people say emotional intelligence. If you ask everyone has several definitions for emotional intelligence. A lot of people will tell you some things you've not heard before. So, Coach, please tell us, what is emotional intelligence?
All right. Thank you. Emotional intelligence is very wide, and I would like to talk about it in two different angles. First, let's look at it in the dimension of grammar. So if you look at a dimension of grammar, it's a combination of two words: emotion or emotional, and also intelligence. So if we're talking about emotion or emotion, because emotional is from emotion. So we're talking about emotion, you're looking at a biological state, you're looking at an organized response, you're looking at what's the third one? A temporary feeling. If you're looking at it from a dimension of emotion. Looking at it, the dimension of intelligence, then you're talking about, it has to do with awareness, analysis, it has to do with intuition and application of knowledge. So if we want to put that together, you can say emotional intelligence simply talks about your ability to interpret, analyze, apply a biological state, apply organized to a response, and apply temporary feelings. So that's from grammar. But if we want to talk about emotional intelligence from a psychological aspect, then we cannot deny the people who founded it, because a major looking at taking a looking backward, emotional intelligence was started, or was the word itself was coined by two guys, Mayo and Salovey, in 1990. And when they formed those words, what they said was that emotional intelligence is a capacity. Watch that word, the capacity. That emotional intelligence is the capacity for you to do three things: to perceive, to process, and also to regulate. To perceive, to process, and regulate emotional information. Because emotion is a data center, it's an information. It's telling you something. So it's a capacity to perceive, process, and also regulate emotional informations accurately and effectively. So because you can process information, you can process emotional information wrongly, which we're going to talk a bit about that later on. So, but it's a capacity to perceive, to process, and regulate emotional information accurately and effectively, but it's both within yourself and also in others. And the reason why you are actually processing this information is to help you in also doing three things: to think and act well whilst influencing others. I know I've said so much in it now, but
I need to tell you to slow down.
Okay.
Because I think we need to get that definition right.
I agree with you.
You said emotional intelligence is the capacity to perceive, to process, and to regulate emotional information.
Yeah.
Accurately
and
effectively, both in yourself and in others.
And you're processing that not just because you want to be informed. You're processing that because you want to be able to think well, you want to be able to act well, and you also want to be able to influence others well. I'd say that's the definition. And that's the definition from Mayo and Salovey.
The definition is actually very broad.
It is.
So broad.
It is.
The capacity to perceive, to process, to regulate emotional information accurately and effectively, both in yourself and in others. So emotional intelligence is not just for yourself.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not, because we are, as humans, we are, how can I use that word now? We are communal beings. We don't self-exist. We live in community. We deal with people. We relate to people. And because we relate and deal with people, you can't say I'm emotionally intelligent by being on my own. I'm emotionally intelligent when I can find myself in a community of men and I actually act well. And because time will fail us start talking about facts about emotion. Because one of the basic facts about emotion is that every individual is an emotional being. No matter how anointed or educated you are an emotional being. You have emotions in you. And the way I deal with your emotions determine if that relationship is going to continue. That's the truth.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So what are the prerequisites to gaining this emotional intelligence?
Now, when you talk about prerequisites to gaining emotional intelligence, I would love to say this, that everybody, every human being created by God actually has greater, lesser residue on innate emotional intelligence in us. But the truth is, based on nurturing and developmental activities, it determines if it's ever going to grow or not.
So everyone has a measure of it.
We have a measure of it in us. You know, when I was thinking about tonight, I remembered something funny that happened to me in primary 4. Very, very funny. There used to be a bully in school. That guy beats me. He beats me to tears. The one particular day, I discovered that he was beaten by the other teachers. I can't remember who actually dealt with him. Do you know I was crying for him?
Why?
This wasn't Christianity. I'm being proud. I was in primary 4. So I was crying and I was petting my bully. For me, that was empathy. And I was like, and I was asking myself today that why was I really crying for it? The guy's name is Emeka. I was like, why was I crying for Emeka?
You were supposed to jubilate.
I was supposed to be saying, thank God somebody has beaten my champion. But I was crying for the guy. Why? Because it's innate. So it's until you begin to, it's either you water it or you begin to wither it. It's a choice you need to make. So we have it on the inside of us, but we need to either intentionally develop it. So that is where Daniel Goma comes in with some kind of frameworks where it says that for you to say you're emotionally intelligent, you need to develop your personal capacity. I also need to develop your social capacity. So when it talks about personal capacity, the first and the bedrock of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. You can't be emotionally
self-awareness.
Exactly. You can't be emotionally intelligent if you lack self-awareness. That's the bedrock. That's where it starts from. So it's about self-awareness. You understanding your biological, psychological, spiritual, physical makeup. You need to be aware of yourself, your triggers, your stressors. You need to understand that. And there are several assessments that people do. So based on self-awareness, you can begin to build up others like self-confidence, self-control, empathy. They all come from self-awareness. Until I know me, I can't do me. I can't become me. I can't act me. So it all boils down from self-awareness. So then you cannot graduate to social capacity. But until you've developed personal capacity, you can't develop social capacity because you can't give what you don't have. And social capacity now involves adaptability, your ability to be able to adapt to other people, to be able to empathize with people, to be able to inspire people, to be able to collaborate and even work with people. But you can't develop the organization social capacity until you've developed the personal capacity, and personal capacity starts from self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Wow. Okay, so emotional intelligence, everyone has a measure of it, but you need to develop it.
Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
Wow. So how do we develop it? What are the ways to develop this?
Ways to develop it, it involves you can learn it. You learn it.
Okay.
You practice it. And I was thinking about it this morning that no matter how much knowledge of emotional intelligence you acquire, until you hit the streets. You don't know if you have it.
Exactly.
I,
Until you are tested.
that's it. That's it. I remember, what year was this? About 3 years ago, we brought in some senior guys and we did 3 days emotional intelligence class for them. On day 2, in the parking lot of the training center, one of the guys that appeared to be highly emotionally intelligent in class actually fought a driver outside.
Wow.
And I felt so stupid as a teacher that, isn't I didn't teach these guys well? This guy's collecting certificate tomorrow. See what this guy has done to me. That was how I felt. But the truth was, he acquired knowledge until he passed that test. He can't tell me he's emotionally intelligent. And one of the guys who actually is a strong voice of emotional intelligence in US, I don't want to mention this because it's not a good story, actually came up one day and said he's been teaching emotional intelligence for years. But I don't think, he said his wife doesn't think he's emotionally intelligent. That his wife has even divorced him. So when he was saying in class, I was like, hey dude, what's going on here? But the truth is, there's a time to learn, but there's a time to be intentionally, to practice intentionally. Now, I think in learning, they've discovered that there are 4 phases. There is a unconscious ignorance, where you don't even know you don't know. There's a conscious ignorance, where you know that, boy, I don't know this thing.
I don't know.
But I want to learn. Now, there's now conscious knowledge, whereby you don't know, you know, and you know you know.
You know.
But the only way you can actually practice it is by consciously saying, okay, is this self-awareness? Is this self-regulation? Is this empathy? Is this motivation? Now you're being conscious of it. And the final phase is with unconscious knowledge. You know it. You don't even need to rehearse it. For example, when you want to learn how to drive a car, you have to be, okay, my hands have to be like this. They have to press accelerator. I have to press this one. If it's those manual car, I have to press this clutch, then go to this. That one, it's conscious. But when you master this thing, get to a point that you can even begin to drive your finger. Because that is unconscious phase. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, it starts first with knowing that you don't know. Not now, emotional intelligence is the buzzword in the world today. Almost everywhere I see it all around and I laugh. But that doesn't mean people have become emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
Some people still don't know it. But the next phase is, now I have an issue with emotional intelligence. I need to learn this thing. Now I go to class, I learn it, I pick up a book, I learn this thing until your knowledge transforms to action. For me, it's head knowledge. And it doesn't make sense. So from acquiring knowledge about emotional intelligence, acquiring knowledge about yourself, acquiring knowledge about the things you need to do to make emotionally intelligent in it consciously. For example, when I first got into this knowledge, I had to do a lot of self-awareness. I had to ask myself some questions. And when it comes to self-awareness also, there are 4 planes to self-awareness. If you're familiar with this framework called Juari window, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Well, if you're familiar with the Juari window will tell you that there are 4 planes in life. There is open plane. I know, you know, we both know, we know that aspect. And there is a closed plane. I know about myself, but nobody else don't know about it. Now, there is now what I call the blind spot. The blind spot is you know, but me, I don't know you know. Because I don't know that about me. And there's now an hidden one. The part where I don't know, you don't know, nobody knows. And the only way anybody can know is for me to be tested in that area. So the truth is, when it comes to self-awareness, you need to make some assessments. Ask people. Get feedback. I get feedback from my children. I get feedback from my wife. I get feedback about what I'm doing. So they show me what I don't see. Because one of the greatest issue about leadership is you don't see some things that people see. Because you're in front, you can't see your back.
Yeah.
And part of self-awareness is feedback. When people tell you the ugly truth you don't want to see. So that is why, if you're talking about growing emotional intelligence, it can never be grown in isolation. It comes out of everybody giving you feedback, and you accept the feedback and you go to work. And you go to work about it.
That feedback you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to it.
No problem.
I'm going to come back to it.
No problem.
Okay. So quickly, what is now the importance of this emotional intelligence in children and adults? Do children need it?
Children need it seriously. I don't want to use the word children need it badly. Children need it seriously. You know, children they need the experience of feeling emotions. Children need the experience of practicing tolerance, self-control, and emotional intelligence. But it's a pity that in the world we live in today, our educational system is focused more on IQ, not on emotional self-regulation. And for me, it's a poor strategy. I came across a research I want to share with you. It was done in Europe. They did a particular study of school-age children, and they looked at those of them who exercise self-control in school as children. Then they monitored them till they were in their 30s, and they found out three things. First, they found that those who exercised self-control as little children, they were more successful, and that success was not based on IQ. Second thing they discovered was the children who exercised self-control growing up and in their 30s, they were healthier, and they were also wealthier. They had more money, and they had less or no criminal records, and they were not troubled with alcohol. Now, the study is from when they were children. So that tells us that there is something about emotional intelligence, about you exposing children to it, not just study, read, pass. It's more than that. It's more than that. That is for children. Now, when it comes to adults, it was also discovered that 85% of success depends on EQ and emotional intelligence, because it affects your decisions. Every decision you make is influenced by emotion. If you make a right decision, it's influenced by if you have a right emotion, it influences your right decision. The right decision influences right actions. The right actions predict the right outcomes. But in adults, it also affects them. It was also discovered by the World Economic Forum.
I think you need to say that again. Right decision leads to right action. Right action leads to right outcome.
Outcomes, yeah. So, and the truth is this, if you look at the World Economic Forum, they came up with a research about top 10 skills for 2020. And number 6 in that research actually is EI, is emotional intelligence. Top 10 essential skills for 2020 and above. EI happens to be number 6 in it. Then there's this EI model also. They call themselves 6 seconds. 6 seconds is an EI model. They did a research and they found out this, that 76% of issues are actually relational. 76% of issues in life are relational. 24% are technical. The technical actually is the one that handles IQ. Relational is actually handled by emotional intelligence. Harvard also did a research and discovered that only 15% determinant of success in life is based on IQ. It's based on IQ. So this tells you how powerful emotional intelligence is. There's a book written by Robert Kiyosaki titled Why A and B Students Work for C Students. I recommend that book. That book is not just a title. That title itself.
Why A and B
students work for C students.
C students.
Why those in school? And you don't even need to read the book to understand what I'm about to say now. Where are those guys who were topping class when we were in school?
Exactly.
Where are they today? Those who used to cover their book when we're writing exams, they'll come. Where are they today? Where are they today? So it
Coach,
tells
you didn't cover your books in school.
me.
You didn't cover your books in school.
I didn't cover. I didn't cover. Even when I got born again, I wasn't cheating. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't covering. I was never an equal. I was an average student almost all through school. Almost all through school. I went for a graduation ceremony today, and I was feeling bad for myself that I had to give an award to a girl, and the girl collected 6 awards from 6 subjects.
Wow.
And I said to myself, Femi, which award did you collect when you were in school? I would like to.
You're collecting all the awards now. You're gathering them now.
Yeah, at least some
You're
of them.
collecting all the awards now.
I think I only collected one. That was not academics. Was actually I came second in the perimeter race. That was the only award I collected.
It's an award. It's an award.
It was not in my school book. It was not in my report card.
Oh.
So for me, these students that we thought were fools were building emotional quotient. That is why they may not pass into integrated science. They may not pass biology and chemistry, but they can talk to you and make you laugh. They can talk to you and wrap you up, and you want to be a friend to them. Why? They understood something you don't know.
Exactly.
And that is why today, those who carry book work for those who did not carry book. I'm not trying to stop reading. I'm not trying to stop going to school. But there's more to education.
Of course. Building the intellect is also important. It is important, emotional intelligence is also important. Social intelligence is also important.
Very, very important.
Even the psychomotor skills, also very important.
Very, very.
If you have watched, if you watch the previous sessions we had here.
Okay.
If you watch the previous sessions, one of the guests we had mentioned to us that there are 3 domains in education. The first domain is the intellect.
Okay.
The second domain is the affective. That is where you have the emotional intelligence and the social intelligence.
Yeah.
Then the third is the psychomotor, the hand skills. Now people feel it is not as important as building the intellect of the children. That is why you see in schools today, a lot of teachers, a lot of schools focus more on children knowing their math, their English, how to write. That is why you see a 2-year-old being given pencil to write. When you should actually be building this child emotionally, socially, and because that is when you teach them the skill of being social, to share. Because children are naturally egocentric. That is the time you're supposed to teach them to share, to teach them teamwork. But that is the time we are teaching them to read 1 to 200. That is the time we want exactly. And most times these children just cram. True. You know, I was going to point your attention to a particular video I posted about 3 days ago.
Okay.
I saw that video. It's not as if I've not seen that video before. But you know, when I saw that video last year, I wasn't as informed as I am now. But seeing that video again, it struck me in a very different light. That if a student would talk to his teacher, the teacher was telling the parents in the presence of the child that your son is a failure.
Oh, I know the video.
He's a failure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And when the teacher told the mother, the son spoke back to the teacher, not rudely, but trying to explain to the teacher that this era we are in is beyond we just cramming and being able to pass academically.
Yeah, was assertive.
And exactly, I saw the way the teacher responded. But you know, you and I know that cannot happen in some cases here. You would have been beaten black and blue.
True.
You know, a lot of things happened while we were in school. Those are one of the reasons. Those are some of the reasons why I decided to come out and begin to educate teachers. Teachers in particular, educators, educationists, school owners, proprietors. That so many things we went through then, they are actually abuse.
True. I agree.
And they do not know that they are actually beating self-confidence out of us. A researcher wrote that at the age of 10, self-confidence has been beaten out of almost all Nigerian children, which is very true.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually true. Most children do not know what we call self-confidence, not to talk of emotional intelligence. Most children can't even stand for themselves. They
True.
get intimidated easily. Why? Because self-confidence has been beaten out of them. A child that is not self-confident cannot even be self-aware.
Definitely.
So how do we educate teachers now? What can teachers do to actually inculcate this emotional intelligence in children? Teach them teamwork. Teach them how to express emotions. What can teachers do? How can we incorporate it into our curriculum?
Now, if we want to talk about teachers, I think let's look at it. I try to break down the educational sector into like six. The first one, which I believe strongly, is from the educators. Is first the educators or the teachers as teachers. Number two is the students. Number three is the school itself or the classroom. Number four is the curriculum itself. Number five is there's a board that governs what happens in the educational sector. And number six are the policies that are actually being installed in the various, depending on your country. Because the policies they put in place, for example, there was a policy that says no more American standard, no more British standard of education in Nigeria again. Those are some of the thoughts they actually pumped in here. Now, but the truth is, if we want to look at how teachers can better do this right, we need to first look at the sector itself holistically. Because a teacher could say, I want to be emotionally intelligent, but the policy they put in place is not going to work for him. So he's going to get frustrated trying to do it. But when we look at also the curriculum itself, I actually discovered something. Sorry, I had to digress a bit. I actually discovered something that storytelling actually helps emotional intelligence in children.
Exactly.
Why? Because it actually brings alive emotions. It brings alive emotions. It helps the children try to picture what you're talking about. I never knew. And I'm actually discovering now that maybe the reason why I cried when that guy, my bullying in primary school, because the school I went to, my primary school, we actually do storytelling every day. Every day is the last subject in class. You have to stand in front of everybody to tell a story. Maybe that was what made me cry for the guy. But the truth is, that's an area of curriculum now. So these are the six major areas. Now, if we're not talking about teachers being emotionally intelligent, now we need to look at teachers. I discover when it comes to teachers, there are actually four kinds of teachers. There's a dismissing teacher. There is a disapproving teacher. There is a laissez-faire teacher. And there's an emotion coaching teacher. These four are not the same. I'm going to say that again. There is a dismissing teacher. Who is a dismissing teacher? A dismissing teacher sees children's emotion as unimportant and they attempt to eliminate it quickly. For example, okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So that's a dismissing teacher. And I'm sorry to say, I don't have the statistics. We have a lot of dismissing teachers. Or even when a child is trying to cry, you just, for example, you bring up, my kids were telling me about an incident that happened in school when the teacher said, the educator said, girls are smarter than boys. Guys do this and that one. When they came to the house, I had to reorientate them and I said, the teacher, that's all what your teacher knows. That is not the truth. Intelligence doesn't have a gender. girls are not better than you. Are all different, and you have equal access to intelligence. I had to register that. But there's a dismissing teacher. Number two, there's a disapproving teacher. The disapproving teacher sees negative emotions as something that must be punished. It must be punished. You see somebody angry, that child must suffer for being angry. You see somebody intimidated because he's never stood in front of a crowd before, you say, until I flog you, you will stand. When I flog you, you will stand. That for me is a disapproving teacher. The third one is a laissez-faire teacher. This one doesn't have anything to do with it. Emotion. He accepts all emotion from the child. He doesn't even allow the child direct the emotion in the
Anyone
right
you do,
way.
I accept.
And I just accept. So far, I have peace. I have temporary peace. Let me use that word, not just peace. I have peace now, immediate peace. That's a little but the fourth one is what I call the emotion coaching teacher. This kind of teacher, they value negative emotion because they know that emotions are actually data center. They know this emotion actually means something. They are not impatient with the child expressing their emotions. They're not impatient with that. That video you watched, that video you just talked about now, that teacher may have some things wrong, but that teacher actually allowed that boy to express himself. He allowed the boy to express himself. And there's a lot in an African culture that actually like
it didn't shut him up.
That's it. When you see somebody trying to express an emotion, you cut it short. You just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
But an emotion coaching teacher actually gives you an opportunity to express yourself. Even uses the environment, uses the curriculum to enforce and actually bring out your emotions. My kids were telling me something their teacher did of recent, that every weekend their teacher will sit down, do videos of his lecture, of his teachings for the week. We do videos of the teachings. They come to class and play it for them. Now, what is the teacher trying to do? The teacher is trying to engage all part of their emotions, trying to use all the gates into their minds to get them to actually visualize things. Now, that is part of emotional coaching. And now, if we want to talk about teachers actually being emotionally intelligent, it's very important. How can they do this? Number one is actually involve self-awareness. Teachers need to be self-aware about themselves. And number two, they also need to encourage self-awareness among the children, among the children they're actually dealing with. Another thing they need to also do is they must be consistently aware of the child's emotions. For example, a child comes to school and is frowning. Don't beat the child. You don't do that. Don't beat the child. Engage in a conversation. Engage in the conversation. Ade, what happened to you? You're not smiling. Is everything all right? Is there something you want us to talk about? How was mommy? How was daddy? Engage in the conversation. So you need to be aware of your word or your students' emotions. And how can you be aware of the emotions if you don't know the emotions? So you yourself need to know the emotions. Then be aware of the emotions. When a child comes to school crying, don't just say, oh yeah, come, sorry, bele. Bele doesn't solve the matter.
Engage in the conversation.
Engage to know, why is this child crying? Why is the child crying? So the first one is you need to be aware of the children's emotion. Number two, you need to see emotions as opportunities for connection and teaching. Emotions are opportunity for connection and for teaching. So when you see your child emotion, when you say this, for example, the child comes home, one of my boys came home one day and was so upset, so upset. One part of me said, ignore the guy. Another part of me said, you can't ignore your son. What's going on? So I called the boy, sit down. There's even the time I took him on a stroll. Let's stroll. So from the stroll, I didn't talk about what he was going through at all. I was just gisting normally. I talked about Power Rangers. Then I saw that he was gradually coming to himself. Then I started, what happened to you? Now, I gained his trust for him to talk to me. What happened to you today? Then he opened up. I told him what happened to him today. If it was my father, I would have flogged him. But after I told him what happened to him today, I said, you're going to break this boy if you punish him for what he has said. So what did I do? And I used what he talked about. I connected it to some of the values we hold as a family. And from that one, we went deeper, and we actually hugged and he apologized by the time we were done. But I used his emotion as an opportunity for connection and also for teaching. Number 3 thing I believe they can also do is we need to listen more and validate feelings. Teachers, I know we're trained to teach, but you can also teach by listening. When you listen to them, when you listen more, when you validate the feeling, you label the feelings, then you can also guide them in problem solving. You can guide them in problem solving. Don't solve all their problems for them, because problem solving skills is one of the top skills. So if every time a child comes to the problem, you just solve his problem, he's going to see you as God. But through what the emotion the child is bringing on board, you can begin to handhold the child to solve the problem together. For example, the child comes to class moaning, crying. You now ask the child what happened. My mommy did not. My mommy. After you said, oh, my mommy, you looked at all analysis. The child was wrong. You can educate the child, connect with the child, teach the child what the mom was trying to do. After you see that the child knows that you validated emotion, and there's something therapeutic when people listen to you, and you've seen that this child has gotten what I'm trying to let him understand, then you cannot tell the child when you get back home, hug your mom, tell your mom you love her, that you're sorry for what you did in the morning. Do you want to do that for me? Yes. Okay, when you do that for me, you tell me tomorrow what your mommy said for you. Can you say it's a total ball, it's a different ball game from why are you crying? Oh yeah, go and kneel down there. Go and kneel down there. Raise up your hand and close your eyes.
Always crying like a baby.
Exactly. There was a time I told somebody that actually it's not even a sin to cry. It's not. It's not.
It's one of the ways to express emotions.
That's it. Somebody told me once that boys don't cry. I said, yes, that's true, but they weep. It's not.
Wow.
It's not. So it's for me, it's a different orientation. It's a different orientation. It's a different orientation, and I think we can still remedy the situation. When we have people like you coming up to talk about this, we can remedy the situation. It's not as bad as it would have been if we left it the way it is. It's the way it's going, the way we're taught, the way we're brought up, and we continue with this generation. Some people will stop going to school. Some will stop going to school.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope you're listening. I hope you're following. I can see a lot of comments. Somebody's asking a question here.
Okay.
The person said, how do you differentiate between self-confidence in the child and being rude?
Oh, okay. Excuse me. There are actually two different things. Self-confidence is assertive. Being rude could be aggressive, and it could also be passively aggressive. Self-confidence comes from self-awareness. Being rude is a symptom of wrong values. When you're rude, you actually you kick under the table respect for self and others. When you're self-confident, you don't kick under the table respect. You are trying to express yourself within a circumference that you are not actually you're not actually putting others down. Now, when you talk about self-confidence actually is I know myself to a point that I can project myself without being killed. When I'm rude, it's not that I know myself. Being rude actually it comes also from an assumed perception of who you are. An assumed perception of who you are. But when you're self-confident, you know yourself and you are asserting yourself. Self-confidence and assertiveness, they're similar to it. But being rude is not self-confident. When you are ignorant, you call arrogance confident.
Yes, sir. And another thing I would like to add to that is that most teachers think being self-confident is being rude. I am talking from the point of view of a teacher now. You know, I have had colleagues where a child is basically just being self-confident and it's termed as being rude. You know, our culture makes us see somebody who talks confidently as someone who is rude, who lacks respect.
True.
You know, you say, I'm talking, you're talking. What do you mean?
It's
You understand? Probably you're teaching. The situation I had was that the teacher was teaching, and I think he made a mistake. He made a mistake, and at the end, the result, the concluding answer wasn't the right thing. And the boy, being a very smart student, stood up and said, "Oh, teacher, I think you made a mistake." And he said, "Keep quiet and sit down. What do you mean? How can you say I made a mistake?" And eventually, he discovered he made a mistake, but he couldn't come to terms with it to tell the child, "Oh, you were right." So when he told me, I had to explain to him that there is nothing wrong in saying, "Oh, I was wrong. I'm sorry."
Vulnerability.
Go back and make that correction.
Fantastic.
He now said, in the presence of all the students, I said, yes, in the presence of all the students, tell them, "Oh, I am wrong here. I was wrong here. Okay, let's make the correction." That make them understand that no one is above mistakes. But when you make the mistake, you can make corrections.
That's it.
Most times, teachers should not term being confident as being rude. Mm-hmm. We need to draw the line there. Draw the line there. Another question for you.
Okay.
As a school owner, how can you identify a disapproving teacher at the entry point?
Now,
I think at the point of recruiting, or at the point of employment, yes. Yeah,
for me, what we do actually is there are some basic assessments. Someone says that okay, let me not go into that one because there's always an issue around emotional intelligence and character. I don't want to go into that one. Let me not go into that one. What I'm trying to say is, at recruitment, there are some basic assessments you can do that shows you the kind of teacher this person is. I may not be able to mention any names on this platform, but there are some basic assessments you can do. The assessment can come with you testing the emotional intelligence of your teachers. And where it shows to you based on the components of emotional intelligence, where they are strong, where they are weak. And immediately you know where they are strong, where they're weak, you know what else to do. Immediately you know, is this trainable? Is this something I need to point out to him and say, or her and say, Mr. Mrs. XYZ, you're competent, you know this subject, you're a fantastic speaker, teacher, you got all the curriculum, you got all the best education, but I think you need to work on those emotions. You need to work on that emotions. You need to do this and that and that. So you can do some basic assessments for them, and you can also engage in a conversation. If you are familiar with emotional intelligence, there's some kind of conversation I will have with you, and I'm going to know immediately that, hey, this person doesn't have it. I'm going to know immediately that this person doesn't have it. This person is struggling with this. This person maybe is self-aware, but lacks empathy. So I'm going to know immediately. So in our conversation, during the interview, you can know by asking questions related to maybe scenario-based conversations around AI. You'll find them out in the conversation.
I think this will lead me to talking about how to employ staff as proprietors, how to employ teachers.
Yeah.
You know, most times we make the mistake, that's proprietors now. We make the mistake of thinking an intelligent person, a very intelligent person, is going to be a good teacher. That is not the only prerequisite to knowing a good teacher.
True.
Yes, it's important that the teacher is intelligent, but there are some other things that the teacher must know. Mm-hmm. The teacher must be willing to learn. Mm-hmm. A teacher who is not willing to learn, I will not employ.
Definitely.
Because as we grow, there are some things you think you know that you will have to unlearn in order to relearn new things. So that's one of the things I tell proprietors. When you're employing, it is not just by giving the teachers you're trying to employ mathematics and English as interview. Interview to me should be a talk. Have a talk with that person. From talking with the person, you can even determine the person's level of intelligence.
Definitely.
So most times it's not just by writing. Most times what I do is I tell the teacher, come and teach me. I won't give you a topic. Pick a topic, any topic of your choice. If you like, let it be the one you have crammed, no problem. Teach me. I will tell you the class I am in, and I'll tell you, teach me. Look at me as your student now. I'm not going to ask you any question. I'm not going to look at you in any funny way. Just teach me. And from your teaching, I can determine a lot of things. That is why our proprietors too need to be, like you said the education sector itself has to be emotionally intelligent. Like everyone involved from the top has to be intelligent before we can talk about teachers. Femi Luther there. I think I lost him there. Okay. Like I was saying, I think he's going to come back in. From the top, it has to start from the top. If you, as a school owner, you are not emotionally intelligent, you can't demand that from your teachers. And you can't even know when to train your teachers. You can't know when to train your teachers. So when you are emotionally intelligent and you have understanding that there are some things you need to learn yourself, then you can begin to bring those things to the fore for your teachers. That is why I deal mostly with private schools, because that is, I think almost all students now, all children now attend private school. Or coach, your children attend private school, right?
Definitely.
Let me shake that table small.
Definitely.
I know. So because actually government schools train their teachers.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am aware of that. They train their teachers. So private schools should train their teachers as well. Train your teachers. If you want your teacher to be the best, if you want to raise the best students, the best pupils, then your teachers have to be well trained, because the quality of your teacher will tell me the quality of the students you're raising, of the pupils you're teaching. Your teacher, once I see your teacher, I know what I'm going to expect in children. You know, one of my children, I happened to, they nicknamed him in school. Guess how old he was when he was nicknamed? I think he was about 2 years old. Wow. And they nicknamed him Power. And I had to ask the teacher, why did you guys decide to call him Power? What happened? They said anytime they restore power, he says power when all the other children says up NEPA. And I said, why do you now have to nickname him Power? Saying that if he's a child that does not have self-confidence, he would have joined us to say up NEPA.
Yeah. True.
Instead of you to nickname that child Power, why not find out, is he saying the right thing? So that you can teach the children too. Yeah. You can learn from children.
Definitely.
Because they are children does not mean you cannot learn from them. So most times we assume that these children do not know anything. But in the real sense, you can learn from them. That is one thing that we need to know as proprietors. Your teachers must be teachable. They must first be teachable. Then the feedback part, let me go there now because we need to round off. In the next 5 minutes, we need to round off.
All right.
We need to round off.
All right.
You said feedback.
Yes.
I told you I was going to come back to that because I know most teachers do not like feedback. Most times it's not palatable.
Definitely.
So they do not want to hear it. So most times they don't ask for it. So how do we encourage teachers to ask for feedbacks from their students? Because most times they just teach for 45 minutes, 40 minutes, and the children did not get one thing.
Yeah. I think, nice question. Feedback is not a very sweet topic in this side of the world. I must confess. Because there's some feedbacks that is a slap on your face. But feedback becomes easier for you to accept when you know yourself and you know that you are more than what you do. So if you define yourself only by your actions, then when you give a feedback, it affects your self-esteem, which is one of the reasons why people avoid feedback and they go into what I call the ostrich wisdom, where I just put my head in the sand. I don't care what everybody says. If I don't see it, it's fine by me. But one of the ways teachers can actually get into pulling feedback from people is to deliberately ask for it. You don't need to let them give you. You ask for it. You ask for it. For example, before the end of the term, even before the midterm break, you can just sit down with your pupils and tell them, guys, tell me some things I need to know. How has it been teaching you people? And before somebody can give you feedback, they must actually have trust in you that this actually will not be used when you are marking scores.
You must be relatable.
That's it. And sometimes the feedback also can come in an informal conversation. In an informal conversation with the pupils. For me, being a teacher doesn't mean I'm superior to the students. Doesn't mean that. So that doesn't also mean that I can't relate with my pupil. For example, I can take a walk with them, even on outside in school in the morning, and just ask them. I mean, if the topic I taught you guys. Did I really follow up with you guys? You begin to ask. Sorry, you begin to ask questions that are open-ended questions. Let me use that word. So with that, they can open up to you. They can begin to tell you the things you do. And the other thing you need to do as a teacher is this: when the feedback is negative, don't let it show your face. The children you're leading this time around are smart. They can read it. Immediately they give you an upper code that sorry sir, it is not I go, it is I went. And he went, immediately they say, I'm joking. They won't tell you anything again. Just get that right.
Yes.
They won't tell you anything again. So you must have enough in quote shock absorber to accept the negative feedback and to work on it. Sometimes if I want to get a feedback from an audience, I tell them that how can I improve in my teaching, so that I can make you better. So when I ask such a question, they know that I'm not witch hunting. I want to get better for myself and for themselves. So if you frame a question in this regard, how can I improve in my teaching so that you guys can learn better? They are more relaxed to give a positive and also negative feedback. So
wow. It's been an amazing time today. Coach, I should say a big thank you to you. Thank you so much for coming to add value to us. And I'm sure everyone that joined this evening got value. But in as much as you got value, make sure you put everything you learn to practice. Do not just learn them and push them aside. Practice them. Put them to practice. Like Coach said, we all have a measure of emotional intelligence, but we must develop them, nurture them, and put them to practice. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate your coming. We appreciate your honoring our invitation. And on behalf of everyone at Veritas,
all right, I think it's the network. I'm here.
Okay. All right, quickly, I am going to say bye-bye to you right now. But before I go, remember this is Veritas Edu-Consult, where we bring in holistic education. We bring in consultants to talk holistic education, tell us about the 3 domains of education, how we can have better education in this part of the world, Nigeria. Nigeria is our case study here. So we need to join every of our live sessions so that we can get value as a teacher, as an individual, and as a parent. Today we talked about the importance of emotional intelligence in the education sector. Thank you, FLA. Thank you, Femi, Luther-Abegunde. God bless you. And God bless every one of you that joined in today. Thank you, sir. All right. Next month is going to be another. Make sure you follow that particular page at Veritas Edu-Consult for holistic education tips. Till I see you next time, I say bye-bye.